Section 6. Driving and Parking in London. This section of the TfL SERU training goes through general information on parking and driving in London. It does not replace the need for you to be aware of responsibilities under the Highway Code. Here are things you should remember. Private hire vehicles are not allowed to drive in bus lanes. Private hire vehicles are not allowed to park, wait, drop off or collect passengers on a taxi rank. Private hire vehicles are not allowed to use or park on electric taxi charge points. A private hire vehicle is not a taxi black cab. If a road sign shows that access is for a taxi, your private hire vehicle is not allowed access. There are 5 topics covered in this section. 1. Stopping and waiting. 2. Bus lanes and bus stops. 3. Taxi ranks. 4. Penalty charge notices. 5. Red routes. Before we continue with this lesson, we would like to invite you to download our SERU Prep app for both Android and iOS. Topic 1. Stopping and waiting. Did you know that private hire drivers can stop to pick up or drop off passengers in many areas where there are rules in place to limit waiting or stopping? Here are things you should remember. PHV drivers should not stop in any place where they might stop other vehicles moving or be in a danger to other road users. PHV drivers must not stop on zigzag lines like pedestrian crossings or outside schools. Drivers should always check what signage is displayed about stopping or waiting and make sure they understand and follow the instructions. Here is a list of places where you can pick up or drop off passengers. On single and double red lines. On single or double yellow lines. In places where loading is not allowed, shown by markings on the curb. In most parking bays. In most bus lanes, although you should avoid this if possible, as it might delay or obstruct buses. It is important to note that by pick up and drop off in the areas listed, it means only that. You cannot wait for passengers in these areas. So if it's a pick-up, it should only be if the passenger is already standing and waiting there to be picked up. When picking up from these locations, you can stop only long enough for the passenger to get in or out the vehicle. This includes the time it may take to help the passengers who need assistance. For example, helping a wheelchair user. You should never stop on taxi ranks, even when picking up or dropping off passengers. If there are waiting or parking restrictions, you cannot stop for longer than is needed for the passenger to get in or out of the vehicle. For example, in some council estates, you may not be allowed to wait or park. However, if you do need to help a passenger, you should do so, but take a note of the passenger's details or booking just in case you get a PCN. Councils do understand that this is a part of your job and will consider. If you do need to help someone, don't spend longer than you are required to. If you are not picking up or dropping off a passenger, you may get a PCN if you wait somewhere where there are restrictions. This can be the case if you have arrived early for a booking, or the passenger is running late, or if the passenger has asked you to stop and wait while they visit a shop or use a cash point. You should never leave your engine running while you are waiting. If your engine is running while you are parked or waiting, you are polluting the environment, and this can be illegal on a public road. Never drop passengers off in the middle of the road, even if your vehicle is stopped due to traffic. You should always get close to the curb. Topic 2. Bus lanes and bus stops. As a private hire driver, you are allowed to pick up or drop off passengers in most bus lanes, even though you are not allowed to drive in them. However, you should avoid doing this if possible. If you need to pick up or drop off in a bus lane, you must enter and leave the bus lane in the most direct and safe way. Pay careful attention to cyclists and motorcyclists who are able to use bus lanes, and to pedestrians and bus passengers that may be getting off the bus and crossing the road. Not stop at bus stop clearways marked with a wide yellow line by the curb. On red routes, you cannot stop at bus stops marked with a wide red line by the curb. You should not try to stop at other red route bus stops to avoid delaying or obstructing buses. Remember that only licensed taxis can use bus lanes. PHVs are not allowed. You should avoid picking up or dropping off passengers at bus stops, as this can delay buses and may not be allowed at some bus stops. Topic 3. Taxi ranks. Taxi ranks can only be used by licensed London taxis or black cabs, not by PHVs. PHVs should not park or wait on working taxi ranks at any time, nor pick up or drop off passengers on a taxi rank. If you park or wait on a taxi rank, you may be fined, and TfL may also take licensing action against you. This could include suspending or revoking your PHV driver's license. Electric taxi charging points. Electric taxi charging points can only be used for charging electric taxis. They cannot be used for charging PHVs. If you park or wait on an electric taxi charging point or use it to charge a PHV, you may be fined, and TfL may also take licensing action against you. This could include suspending or revoking your PHV driver's license. Topic 4. Penalty charge notices, PCNs. On street parking attendants or enforcement officers, as well as enforcement cameras, can be used to issue PCNs to the registered keeper of the vehicle if caught breaking the law. You may get a PCN even if you do not see an enforcement officer, and the PCN does not have to be attached to the windscreen of your vehicle to be valid. You can get a PCN for parking offences or other moving traffic offences, such as driving in a bus lane, banned turns or movements. For example, an illegal U-turn or blocking a yellow box junction congestion, charging CC zone. Private tyre vehicles entering the London congestion charge zone will need to pay the daily charge unless they have an exemption. The times and days for the congestion charge can be found on the TfL website. If your PHV is designated as wheelchair accessible, you will not have to pay the congestion charge if you are entering the zone to carry out a booking from a London licensed PHV operator. You can check if your vehicle has been designated as wheelchair accessible on the TfL website. Ultra Low Emission Zone, ULEZ. The Ultra Low Emission Zone operated in London. You can find more information on the ULEZ charge on TfL's website. This will include the area it covers and the ability to check if your vehicle is exempt or not. PHVs need to meet ULEZ emission standard, or their drivers must pay a daily charge to drive within the zone. The emission standard for PHV vehicles is petrol vehicles must be Euro 4 standard, diesel vehicles must be Euro 6 standard. The emission standard of a vehicle can usually be worked out from the date of its first registration as new, which is shown on the vehicle's registration document, known as the V5C or logbook. TfL registered wheelchair accessible PHVs are exempt from the ULEZ charge. Topic 5. Red routes. These are the main roads in London and are marked with red lines by the curb and where required with signs. PHV drivers can pick up or drop off passengers on single or double red lines, but PHV drivers must not wait for passengers where restrictions apply, even if they have arrived early for a booking, or the passenger is late or wants to visit a shop. The only exception is that TfL do allow PHVs to stop on the red route to wait for passengers to use a catch point between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., but for no longer than 5 minutes. Private hire drivers must never, for any reason, stop within pedestrian clearways, zigzag lines, bus stops with wide red lines, or any place where their vehicle could cause an obstruction or danger to other road users. There are some parts of red routes that are marked for parking. Parking bays can be identified by a P on the signs that accompany them. The signs will tell you when parking is allowed, how long vehicles can be parked for, and how soon a vehicle can stop again in the same section of the road. It is important to pay attention to the signs, and particularly the time limits and restrictions shown on them. PHVs can pick up or drop off passengers and can park or wait in a parking bay if they obey the mentioned limits. Here is an example with the meanings. No stopping at any time. No stopping during times shown on the sign. Parking is limited to the duration specified during the days and times shown. Only loading may take place at the time shown for up to a maximum